What's up, YouTube? I am back with another, just another video. I have some things that I want to talk about today. Specifically, I want to talk about, talk through a few of the myths or common myths that have been attached to atheism. And so we'll jump into those in a few. As you already know, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you can get notified. Consider joining our community, whether you do so on Patreon or through the YouTube membership program. We also have some other things rolling out as well. Consider volunteering and check out our merch. We have some of the dopest merch on the planet, if I may say so myself, and I do. But yeah, check those things out. Listen, it's been an incredibly busy previous 2 weeks. As you know, I did a little bit of traveling last week to participate in a documentary about the rising epidemic of non-believers in the States, and so I'll try to keep you all updated on how production is going and if it actually hits distribution, which I'm really excited about that for a lot of reasons. But then also, many of you know we've launched Sunday sessions on our channels on our channel now. So every Sunday, my wife and I actually just share some things, and we do some really cool community stuff on those days. And so now we've expanded those conversations to Discord, which is also more room for our patrons as well as our YouTube members as well. So that information will be in the description below. But if you're interested in joining us and seeing what's going on, please check us out. This week we actually I'm super excited, and I know this isn't the content of the video for this video, but hey, I'm excited, so I want to talk about it. We actually have people who are joining our little community beyond Patreon and YouTube. People who are committing to help us build community and build secular community, wherever we can, all the places that we can. And so this week we actually had a good influx of volunteers and a good influx of new members. So that's also keeping me very, very busy because I have to get all of these kind of, I don't want to say packets, but yeah, packets together for them so everybody can be informed and everything can be smooth. But if you're interested in that, please check us out on Sundays, and I promise you, you won't regret it. All right, so let's kind of jump into this video. Ever since stepping out of the closet as an atheist and becoming more vocal with my own atheism, my own humanism, and how I feel about the world around me, that there are things that you just can't help but to hear. So let's kind of walk through some of these myths that are often lobbied at atheists. The first one is probably the most common one, is that atheists lack morals or values. This myth assumes that morality is solely derived from religious teachings, but atheists often base their moral decisions on rational thought, empathy, humanistic principles, and societal norms rather than religious doctrine. And here's the truth of the matter: it's not just atheists who do that, right? It's one thing to believe that there's a ghost in the machine, and I'm fine with that, but to just because you have that belief to now superimpose that this idea that everything now flows from the ghost in the machine, that's actually where the thing falls apart at. So I have no reason to believe that morals would flow from any ghost in any machine, because when I actually look at humanity, it seems to me that believers and non-believers alike all seem to develop their morals in somewhat of the same way. And we only get into this sort of gray area, of course, in extreme cases, but then also just in the cases where it's conversational, right? So when we're talking conversational and someone says, "Oh yeah, well I get my morals from God." Well, I know you're saying that, but you didn't, though, because in order for you to actually gotten your morals from God, God would have to exist. And as an atheist, I obviously don't hold a belief that God does exist. And so then your morals have to come from somewhere else at that moment, and they do. For the most part, I haven't seen any case of humanity where morals weren't developed by some sense of empathy. Now, of course, those things do get challenged, but that's because of the complexity of humanity. And so we can deal with those things, but I won't belabor the point too much on that. But no, as an atheist, I still have morals. Now, many believers will feel like I don't have morals or I don't have values, and what they believe about me is pretty much like what they believe about God. It's absolutely irrelevant to me, right? But no, I don't know anyone who actually lacks morals. You may have people who have morals that you don't agree with. You have people who have differing morals, but I don't know if I've ever met a human being that lacked morals, because morals are not a it's not a predefined list of things that everybody agrees to. Morals are ultimately just our social response to the world around us. And so everybody has some type of morals, which just kind of shows you the childishness of this one altogether. But then another one is atheists are always anti-religion. And now, obviously, many of you have heard me say on many occasions that I'm anti-superstition. I'm not necessarily anti-religion, and that's primarily because I view these things from a sociological perspective, in the sense that religion, much like politics, much like business, much like anything else, is an inanimate entity. It doesn't have its own agency. It doesn't act of its own. I'm more concerned about the people who take on these titles. And yes, while there are some atheists who are actively opposed to organized religion, many simply lack belief in gods and are indifferent to religious practices one way or another. Others respect and understand religious beliefs, acknowledging them as possibly important cultural and social constructs. So no, atheists are not always anti-religion, and probably here's the big thing: atheists, like every other group of people, are not a monolith. We really, well, I can go there, but we'll kind of continue on with this list. But no, I can speak for me for sure. I'm definitely not anti-religion. Now I am anti-superstition, and so if your idea of religion is that religion has to be superstition influenced, then I'd likely be anti that religion. But if you have a religious system that does not require superstition, either through doctrine or through deity, then I'm all for it. I'm not against it. And truth be told, I'm not against people believing in things that may not be true, and grouping together around those beliefs. The place that I typically draw the line is whether or not these beliefs are harmful, or actually more appropriately, are the beliefs beneficial in a measurable way. Now that's where I stand. Now, I don't hold other people to stand that way, and at this moment I don't think I know any other atheists who take that particular stance. Not saying that they're not. I'm not that dang special, but the point is that we're not all the same. The next one is like atheism is a belief system or a religion, and now this one I will. Nope, I can't even give you this. I was about to say I give you this depending on how you define religion. Which there are some very valid ways to describe religion without superstition, but you can't describe religion without organization, right? And so that's why it's always funny sometimes when people use the term organized religion to me, and I'm like, well, if the religion isn't organized, then it's likely not a religion. Like it's like someone saying, oh, this is organized business, or this is organized politics. I'm sure we're all familiar with cases where things were not managed as well as they needed to be, but in order for something to exist as a group entity, it has to be by default organized, which is somewhat of a mimic or a mirror of our own organic structure itself. Cells are fairly useless until they're organized, and that people kind of work the same way. And so no, atheism is not a religion. Number one, because it's not organized. If there were organized atheists, and those organized atheists were collaborating towards a certain thing, then I'd literally give you that one. I'd say sure, atheism can but even then, atheism itself wouldn't be a religion. It would be a group of atheists getting together to practice whatever they're doing religiously, but that still wouldn't make atheism a religion. But I think that, and that's probably the biggest problem that you have with people who kind of propagate these type of myths, is that these people are in many cases not very nuanced in their own thinking to actually deal with the words that they're actually labeling. And as you see here, I'm actually trying to think this through. not just giving this a yay or nay. I'm actually, no, okay, is atheism a religion? Well, no, it doesn't meet the merits of religion. It's not organized. I don't believe religion, or I don't think religion has to have superstitions attached to it. But in order for something to be a religion, it does by the default, have to be organized. Now, as far as atheism is a belief system, that's ludicrous. Atheism is simply the lack of belief in gods or deities. It doesn't prescribe a particular set of beliefs or behaviors in the way that religious doctrines do. There may be things that atheists agree on, and there are plenty of things that atheists disagree on, because literally the only thing we have in common, based off of the label or nomenclature of atheists, the only thing that we have in common is this one type of thing that we don't believe in. you know because you have atheists, you have atheists who actually believe in the supernatural. I don't know how that works, but it's out there. So no, it's not a belief system or a religion. Another one is that atheists are angry or bitter. And for this one, it's just like, people are angry or bitter. This stereotype often arises from vocal criticism of religion by some atheists, including me. But it's misleading to generalize atheists in this manner. Many atheists are happy and fulfilled without religious belief. As a matter of fact, I gander to say that most atheists are happy and fulfilled without religious belief. I.e., that's why they became an atheist. But as far as atheists are angry or bitter, yeah, this one I think is a little bit of a misdirection. People can be angry and people can be bitter and people can be angry about things. I don't know if you've ever been to a football game, but if you kind of use this type of logic, then if you went to a football game, then you say, hey, sports fans are always angry or bitter, because there's literally a riot at almost every NFL game. And I live in the South in Alabama, and boy, man, these Bama fans, you'd be like, oh yeah, Bama fans are angry or bitter, or Auburn fans are angry or bitter. So this one is much more like a straw man to me. If you leave a relationship that you deem to be damaging and traumatic for you, you have the right to talk about that relationship without being called angry or bitter. And I think that's just a trap, especially within Christianity. There's always this pseudo well-being, or this pseudo idea of what being holistic means, and so there's always these ideas of which there's no. It's funny because it's involved in the speech. We say these things about being peaceful, being joyful, having happiness, and all of those things. And then if you see somebody who you just so happen to disagree with, that are not joyful or happy or at that moment, then all of a sudden, yeah, you see these people, because they don't have the joy of the Lord, they're not happy. And I'm like, you will never find a Christian anywhere that's happy all the time, or that's joyous all the time, or that's peaceful all the time. And any Christian that you would find, that person is, number one, lying, and then number two, going against what their own scripture says, because scripture doesn't even promise that. And so that's just, I don't know any person who's never been angry about something. I don't know any person who's never been bitter about something. So that one, I just don't even, that just feels so horrible. It feels childish for someone to say. Another one is atheists fear death more than believers. And I think that is one thing that I come across a lot, is that believers tend to think that they are psychics when it comes to knowing about atheists, because I don't know how you would know this without an atheist telling you that, or without there literally being an atheist convocation where we all get together and vote and say, yep, we all fear death more than believers. This one is definitely more of something kind of like the morals thing, that I feel like believers just tell themselves, because in their mind, it just doesn't make sense how someone could not be afraid of death, or how someone could not be afraid of not living forever. In their minds, it doesn't make sense. But in all actuality, I do want to point out that dissonance there, because the truth of the matter is, they're not necessarily afraid of death. They're not necessarily afraid of not being here. anymore. This is the script that they've lived off of. One thing that I've found is that when you actually deal with people intimately, you really find that there is a dichotomy between what we actually believe and feel and the script that we feed ourselves. And this is one of the things that results in a lot of, I don't want to say mental illness, but definitely allows in a lot of mental oppression, if you will, of the self. Like self mental oppression is when you have people who they have one part of them that lives in reality, lives by this reality, but then they have this other script that they have to feed themselves based off of society. And it often, you can be okay with something happening in life. You can go through something and it's kind of like a hard time, and technically you're okay. But when you start feeding yourself this script that, no, I'm supposed to be upset about this, I'm supposed to be mad about this because this is wrong, or this is the devil, or this is all that, and all of a sudden you kind of get yourself worked up, and this happens a lot. But it's believed by some that atheists lacking a belief in the afterlife fear death more, and in reality, atheists have various perspectives on death, and our acceptance of or fear of it is as varied as among religious people. There are religious people who are afraid to die. As a matter of fact, yeah, just go look and see how they respond at the funerals. But no, I wouldn't say that atheists fear death more or less than anybody else. As a matter of fact, I think almost every myth that's levied at atheists is just something that can be more appropriately talked about humanity generically, and except for the lack morals or values part. Again, I think people have morals that I may disagree with, but I just haven't met anybody who doesn't have morals. So that one is a little different for me. But yeah, but for the rest of these, they're all myths, but I don't think that should even be a shocker. I don't think it should be a shocker that people who base their belief in life, on things without having evidence. I don't think we should be shocked that these people would have beliefs about other people and not require themselves to have evidence for those things. Um that's kind of how this works, is and that's why I do like to talk about these things, and bring some light to this, is because it's not just that people believe things that make them feel better. It's that these people also develop other beliefs about other people, other lifestyles, and all these other things that become extremely disruptive and just unconducive to actual social health. But yes, I mean, if you have people who think just because you identify differently than them that you don't have any morals, or that you must be angry, or that you must be bitter, or that, oh, you hate, religion, you're anti-religion, then these are people who have not acclimated themselves with how to know, basic epistemology. How do you come to knowing things? Some other myths that I've heard are that atheists have no purpose in life, which that's a deeper conversation, and that's one that I'd love to have, um, because when I think of purpose, I think it's a word that's been tossed around way too much, and many times it's not as helpful as we'd like it to be. But I don't think atheists have any trouble finding meaning and purpose in their lives. I can speak for me as an atheist. I find it a lot easier to find purpose in my life now because I can be the person who assigns that purpose, which is why I like to focus more so on capacity. What are you capable of doing? And then within all of those things that you're capable of doing, any of those things that you want to do, and if you choose to do those things, then you've kind of assigned yourself purpose. Another common myth is that, well, atheists are sure there is no God. I'm sure there are some of us who will say that. I'm sure there's not a Christian God, not the one in the book. But this myth confuses atheism with agnosticism. While some atheists do assertively believe there is no God, many simply lack a belief in a God, but do not claim certainty about God's existence or non-existence. This more common form of atheism is often about being unconvinced rather than about being certain. And then I'd even take it a step further. At this moment, the whole idea of God is 100% irrelevant to me. So it's not just that I'm unconvinced. It's not just that I'm not certain. At this juncture in my life, I am 100% uninterested. Um, the only way I'd be interested in there being a God who existed is if that God's existence was relevant to my life. And if that God's existence was relevant to my life, then that God would be able to speak and reveal themselves. But no, I will not be doing any hand-me-down gods. But yeah, so you do get all types of myths like this. Atheists hate religious people, which is not true. And it's funny, especially when you have Christians who lobby that one in particularly, because Christians, they believe that they are able to hate the sin and not the sinner. So surely atheists can hate the ideology without hating the people. And I think one of the things that you'll see is probably not all atheists, but there are a heavy majority of atheists that lean towards secular humanism, which means that hating people is not necessarily something that's in our bag of tricks. I mean, we can do it; we're good at it, but no, that if someone hates religious people, it has very little to do with their identity as an atheist, because again, the atheist is just the lack of belief. It is not a it's not a commitment one way or the other. So I don't believe in God, so now I hate people who believe in God. That's an addendum. That's not in atheism. Another one is that atheism is a Western movement, or atheism is modern, and that nothing could be further from the truth. As a black man, I get this one a lot, because it's like, oh, atheism is white folk stuff, and it's just like, oh my goodness, everybody wants to just assign something to somebody. And no, atheism as just an ideology of not being convinced or not being certain that there is a God exists. There always, as far as we know, there's always been a point in humanity where there were humans who did not believe in any types of gods. As a matter of fact, it is likely that the first, shoot, I'd probably say at least the first 200,000 years of our existence. And of course, I'm going back a little pre-species here, but we're likely not believing in any God, because that belief itself comes from wrestling with the world around you, from an uninformed perspective, which you have to get there first. So, but no, and actually, just from the perspective of being an African American, there are quite a few pre-Atlantic slave trade African societies and cultures that had no deities, um, and man, I wish I could. There's one in my head right now, but I can't recall the name. If I do, I'll definitely drop it in the notes. But it exists. Um, and so no, these are just a few myths that I wanted to kind of walk through and talk through, because I get these a lot. And I think, like I said, I think the thing that we should all really be clear on is we should have kind of known these were going to be myths in the first place, because they come from people who are, you know what I'm saying here. But I hope I've said something that have stirred you up a little bit, giving you something to chew on. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me. Make sure to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the alert notification bell so that way you get notified anytime we drop new content. Oh yeah, consider joining our community. Consider volunteering, and check out our merch. And I think that's all I have for now. So until next time, keep rising, stay progressive, and stay beautiful if you can.